Welcome to I Didn't Know That, a show about things I didn't know. And today we're going to talk stoplights. I often sit at a stoplight and wonder who decides how long the red light should be and when it triggers, and if it's done automatically or like when you pull up and it's motion censored. So all those things run through my mind. So we're going to figure all that out today. All right, so to solve our mysterious questions of stoplights and how they work, we've got Brian Christensen from MnDOT. Thank you, Brian, for joining us.
Well, my pleasure.
So there's a lot to stoplights.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my question is, is it the weight of my vehicle that makes the sensor go off? Is it just on a timer? What is happening with the stoplights in Detroit Lakes in the area?
Yeah, so basically what'll happen is you'll pull up in your vehicle, and once you're there, we have what are called inductive loops that are buried into the ground. And once your vehicle passes over that loop is able to detect that vehicle's presence, and it will go ahead and send a signal to our computer or our controller, and then it will then detect you're there and tell the signal it's time to start thinking about getting you going.
Okay, and so is that after it's obviously must be before the stop bar paint on the
Correct. Yep. So it'll be right before that stop block,
okay,
if there's one painted. And again, if you're looking on, like, let's say Washington and 10, it's buried inside the concrete.
Okay, I know I've sat at the 59 and 34 and 10 stoplights because somebody didn't pull up far enough, and it's like, oh, you just need to inch forward.
Yeah.
So.
And it can make for a long wait if they don't do that.
Now, is there any other ways that the stoplights are triggered?
Yeah, so another option is to use a camera system. So we don't typically use those in our district. I know they have them in St. Cloud and so forth, and that will detect through that camera when a vehicle pulls up and then trigger that light system.
Okay, and so is kind of the days of just being on a regular timer, every 3 minutes or however it is that kind of over?
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. A great example of that would be just driving right through main drag Detroit Lakes. That whole light system is all set up on timing, and it's controlled by a box over by the library.
Okay, so who decides how this is all happening? And I'm assuming there's a lot of research that goes into determining how long the setup and how long it's lasting. And
yeah, absolutely. So here at MnDOT, we'll do traffic counts. So we'll send somebody out to gather how many people make a turning movement, so like a right and a left-hand turn, how many people are going basically straight through the intersection. On occasion, we'll use little rubber hose-like devices that go across the roadway, and every time a vehicle goes over that, it triggers it and counts that vehicle. So believe it or not, we have about 15,000 vehicles that drive on Highway 10 every day going through Detroit Lakes.
So I'm throwing this out there, but my brain, when I see that black cord that goes across, I'm like, okay, how does it know to not count my front and rear tires as more than one vehicle? Yeah,
they have that all set up in the box, because even with like a semi truck, they have the math figured out to be able to do that, and so they're making sure that they get those counts accurate. And those systems usually stay up for about 48 hours to help get a good indicator of the traffic for that area.
Yeah, and then as I was like sitting at the stoplights, again, my brain is weird, and there's a lot of factors. You've got train, you've got emergency vehicles. So how does that all work?
Okay, so that we call preemptive. So what'll happen is, let's say in Detroit Lakes, the train is coming through. that will tell our controller or computer that, hey, we need to give priority to the Washington vehicles so that we can clear them off the track. So that will then interrupt the current signal and say we need to give a green light to get everyone off of Washington. So that basically works when the railroad triggers the crossing gates, and then that's tied into the signal system. It can also happen if there's an emergency. So an example would be yesterday, there was a pretty good sized fire in Becker County, and fire trucks were coming from Perm and all over. Whenever that emergency vehicle comes through, it can trigger that preemptive signaling by either using their siren, so an audible signal, or what we're converting to in our district is pretty much using a strobe. And we have strobe lights then that are mounted on like the police cars and ambulances and fire trucks that are synced, and then we'll trigger that signal to activate and give us the green light. So if you've ever wondered what are the floodlights that are white on the top, when those are blinking, that's telling you that the signal's in a preemptive override mode, basically. So be on the lookout for either a train or for an emergency vehicle coming through.
Okay, I often wondered, is that for us, that light, or is it for the emergency vehicle? Or, who is that? Yeah, what is that determining?
And I like to use it for both. So me being on the fire department, it tells me, hey, I'm going through and I know that I should be getting a green light, so it helps me there. But also it's good to know as a normal person driving down the roadway that, hey, something more could be coming through this intersection.
Sure. And then I noticed when I was trying to cross Roosevelt, go over 34 and then to Richwood Road, I was waiting a little bit longer than usual. Is that something that you are trying to clear the highway traffic more?
Yeah, so on people may have noticed an increased wait if you're local traffic crossing Highway 10 in Detroit Lakes. We did basically a study and decided that we wanted to give priority to the traffic going east and westbound of Highway 10. Again, like I said, with that 15,000 people, there's a big push to try to get them moving through the corridor. So what we do now is we have those vehicles, again, the vehicle pull up, it'll trigger the light, but this time it's set up so that it will go through the whole stretch of lights in Detroit Lakes.
Yeah, I did notice it was a little bit longer of a wait time.
Yeah, so our apologies, I guess, to all the local traffic trying to get across. But yeah, it's going to take longer now to get through, because what has to happen is it's called the platooning effect. We want to make sure that group or gathering of vehicles crossing all gets through the signals, and then we tell the traffic signals to then give the priority for traffic to cross.
And I'm assuming that's a lot more helpful for semis, to...
Absolutely, because a great point, prior to that, you could be coming down, and I remember when I was driving semi coming through town, you'd end up and you'd maybe have to stop at Chris Street, and then you'd be, and then it just made it difficult. So we're really, like I said, trying to get that traffic flowing on 10.
Sure. I suppose I can be a little more patient now, now that I know why.
And we appreciate it, so.
Sure. And if anybody does have kind of maybe a question or maybe suggestion, are people able to contact MnDOT?
Absolutely. So you can reach out to us, and our front desk can get you in touch with our traffic engineer, or you can reach out to me, and then we can get those questions forwarded to the right group of people.
Super. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's so fun to learn about things that just pop into my head, and traffic lights are way more complicated than you may know.
So I got a question for you. Do you know what the blue colors are now that we're using?
No.
So yeah, so the blue
In a stoplight?
well, they're on kind of on the side. So where you'll see those, they're in Moorhead. So if you look on 75, you will see a blue light that comes on, and that allows law enforcement to know when you run a red light, so they can monitor that and see in their rear view mirror or from a side street what that color is for. So,
but those yellows sometimes just turn faster than you think.
Absolutely.
Well, that's so interesting. Well, thank you so much, Brian. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you guys learned a little something like I did today.